I was in Kauai in 2019. 2018, we took a group. Okay. 2019, I went with Elle. Okay, we spent a week. And in 2019, 2018, maybe 2016, yeah, we found this beach. All right. And we wound up making it a dojo right by the ocean. And so in 2019, I found this stick. And, you know, I sort of started to train with it at the beach. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. And what we might do, for example, is, well, since he talks about what we call the, you know, the heaven, earth, water, fire, there's also what's called the Shikun, the four souls, and what is it? The Aramitama, the fire soul, who Sensei talks about the law. Okay, the Kushimitama. I believe the Kushimitama is about ceremony. The water soul is about harmony. And the earth soul, the Sachimitama, and this is my own personal slant on it, is about love. And the earth soul, in other words, love can be an abstract out there, but we're here in this earthly dimension and being able to sort out, work out the differences and to bring the love in here and let it radiate out. Okay? Now, one of the things about, let's just say, we go into the Aramitama, which is oftentimes seen as the martial, fire, the law. Okay? Let's go through the first part of our 30 movements. Okay? And let's just say the form itself is kind of like the fire soul. So movement number 1, movement number 2, movement number 3, movement number 4, boom. Movement number 5, movement number 6, 7, let's go up and down, 8, rethrust, 9, strike, cut, and strike. Okay? And it's a form. And, you know, to me, if somebody says, well, Jack, what would be the fire soul? I would say, well, it's form. Okay. Now, we start out with the first couple. What does that represent to me? Well, it represents ritual. Okay. In other words, so many Aikido things, they start out here and then you go into these movements. But no sense they started out something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, 5, 6, boom, 7, boom, up and down, 8, rethrust, 9, 1, 10. So, ritual, Kushimitama. Starting out with that, not starting out with the fire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up and down. 8, 9, and 10. Okay? What's the ritual? It is, the actual kushimitama. Lining yourself to heaven. Heaven exists both upward, but also heaven on earth. And planting yourself right in the center. Now, the actual law. Okay, so first 10 movements. Okay. Anybody with a question on that? So you got the movements, but also I'm trying to bring in some other things. Okay. So the 4 souls, the shikon, was an essential part of our sensei's teachings. Okay. In other words, I'm just going to go out there. Fire can represent war, ritual, fire, not war, but law. All right. And, those are things that I'm kind of interpreting as best I can at this point. Anybody with a question? So we got the 10 movements. We also have.
Yeah, this is Audrey.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, I'm glad to be back. I don't know if I told you, but I had some eye surgeries. So would you say the 1 through 4 movements are like the ritual? No, I mean, the connection is love, or is it more spiritual connection to heaven, and are they different?
Well, I think an essential part of O-sensei stuff is that everything is in everything, but the things have an original beginning. So for me, okay, that's a good question. Right. Original consciousness. An original soul presence. You can, parent forces, one, the other, existing in harmony. There's a magnetism, a love connecting them. Boom, personalized soul consciousness, that original thing, right? So original, Su, whatever you want to call it. So for me, that's, it's ritual. But on the other hand, if I kind of, right here, boom. That also has fire in it. Now, there's also earth. To me, if somebody says, what is Sachimitama, the earth soul? Well, it's love. Love can be an abstract. But to actually bring the love here, likewise, water. Okay, water flows. No, but water's harmony. 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 Boom, 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 boom. So that's my thing. For example, personally, okay, I do it a little differently. And this is Su. Su goes to U. So even I do the personalization within the original soul. Su, there's U, me. Okay. And there are parent forces, heaven, earth, if you will. And right here, boom, I'm their child. And I'm given an inheritance, the universe, circle, center, center, circle. So that's my own personal ritual.
So is
And
that different than the 30 form? Like the side to side movement you just did isn't part of the form, correct?
no, we don't. That's part of a little bit more like what I kind of see O Sensei doing. For example, if I go this way, I try to do
So,
that every day.
yeah,
It's a
I
little
like
more,
it a
it's a
lot.
little more advanced. That's to me, it's just like a personalization. I mean, somebody says, is that what O Sensei did? I don't know. But from kind of
No,
studying,
but it's your inspiredness about what he did. And so it's helpful for those of us who are behind on the path,
yeah,
you know, down the way. And so it can be so that part is like an individual practice. And then
yeah.
what you call the form is, does it have, I know all the parts of the four energies are in one,
Yeah.
all there at the same time, but where the first 5 to 10-ish are kind of fire, are there other points where the water and the other energies are more dominant?
Well, you see, the point of it is that all, if we go through, we have the Shikun, the four souls.
And that's
Everything is one. Okay. The way O Sensei put, the one goes out into the many, and the many go back to the one. Now, this is my own personal supposition. Okay. You had some sort of an incomprehensible thing, like, I want to know God. I'm going to experience God personally in my own way. But the original sense of whatever was going on, the great mystery, whatever it is. But at some point, it was everything and nothing. So it gave itself a consciousness awareness, a soul. And then, to create the universe, it sort of had to create parents out of itself. You could say that's fire, this is water, that's heaven, that's earth. Now, out of that original consciousness and the original parents, boom, the soul personalized. And the structure of the universe is a little bit like an inheritance. There's a circle, and there's a center. Boom. And I do that with the sound, su, u, a, o, u, e, e. So, su, now for the 30 movements, that's a lot to do. If somebody wants to learn that and do that, that's more of an individual practice. But 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we go into the movements. But I made the first couple of movements intentionally kind of what I call somewhat off of what O Sensei did. Because most weapon systems, they kind of start here, and you start with a motion, and then up north they go this way, down south they go this way. So it's a point where that's my own just say with some guidance, that's what I do. I think it's pretty good. Okay. In, the Western movie Shane, it was originally supposed to be an anti-war movie. And they turned it into a Western, which is very anti-violent if you look at it. And the little boy wants to know Shane's a gunfighter. So he says something like, Shane is teaching him how to shoot a certain way. And he says, is that the best? And Shane said, it's not as good as some, probably better than most. That's what I do. So within that, it's quality. Is this the absolute best way of being a gunfighter? And Shane says, it's better than most. It's what I do. And there may be people better, there may be better ways, but this is what I do. So, kind of given that, given the Sioux chant. Now, what's interesting is that, according to the Do Sensei, the Sioux, so Sioux original consciousness, personalization, even at that level, the beginnings of it. The original parents, fire, water, or heaven and earth. And then, boom, that original becomes the child of the universe. And this is the circle. And this is the center. According to the Do Sensei, instead of going E, well, Sensei went so we kind of split the into and re, and the E into E and Gi. So it forms the cross, right? So those are things that, I have a certain interest in. I like, looking at things and just saying, okay, now you have a triangle, boom, now you have a circle, and boom, now you have the square. You have a triangle, you have a circle, you have a square. You have the triangle, you have the circle, you have the square. Now that goes one step further from the four souls into what he calls the three origins, the Sangen, the three fundamentals. The triangle, circle, square, right there. Then it goes into the 8 powers. That was O-sensei's model for creation. But everything started off of what he called the Ichi-Rei, the original Su, the original soul consciousness. And then off of that, creation unfolded, went out, comes back. Now that motion here is like the circle. So I kind of do it this way. And then the universe is laws, is harmony. That's our inheritance as Su to U. And as, that's why I think he goes ah, oh, and he goes ooh again. Because when you get the parent forces, you have Su to U is already personalized within that great field of Su. And that had to create a yin yang, a light, dark, a heaven, earth, a water, fire. And then, boom, we become the child of those forces. And then those energies go out. We have an inheritance. The laws, the perfection of the universe is our inheritance. And this right here is, boom, coming of age. So right here, I kind of see the symbol of the floating bridge. But that's just me. Somebody says, Jack, is that the absolute truth? I have reasons why I do it, and there's certain experiential things that happen for me when I do that. Okay? I think it's pretty sound. And if that's the absolute truth, I don't want it to become a belief system. Then all of a sudden you go, okay, this is right, This is wrong. We do that. There's another tribe that doesn't do that, so they're screwed. You know, and then you have the crazy mess of the world here in Aikido. It's called politics. Okay?
Yeah, and thank you for that,
Yeah,
because those pieces are your
yeah,
understanding of those places that can't be spoken, and it helps us
yeah,
find clarity, find similar places.
yeah. Now, Sensei, you know, if we look at him, then it becomes form and ritual. But he wanted us to go further into the direct experience of what those meanings and gestures were. Okay? That's my attempt to do that. You know, there's a certain sort of personal way. If somebody says, Jack, teach a seminar in it, I'd say, okay, but I do it with that qualification. This is what I do. Now, what did I do? Well, I started with Robert Fraser, Robert Nadeau, where they were doing some great stuff because they were working totally off of their impressions of O-sensei. Went to Japan, trained for a period of time with Hikizuchi sensei, who learned directly from O-sensei about a lot of the ritual. Okay. Came back here, I reconnected with both Fraser sensei and Nadeau sensei in different ways, and continued to research O-sensei. Okay. And so this is where I am with it. Most people don't care about that stuff. You know, the point of it though is I do. Okay. So,
Well,
you know,
that's what brought me to Aikido, and how grateful I am that you share it. I'm very grateful
well,
that you share it.
but you know, if you want, try it. See what comes up for you. See what happens for me. It's position. And you can say that's the floating bridge of heaven, or that's true self, or whatever it is. But position needs experience. And a lot of experience is motion. So, you know, but when I go from this, which is positioning within the best I can say is a universal level of consciousness, the best I can. The beginnings of personalizing it. Su, acknowledging either the fire, water, or the heaven, earth, or the light, dark, or the yin yang, and boom, becoming the child of that original love attraction, moving on out into the universe as an inheritance and coming of age. That's my own ritual. If it works for you, fine. I mean, if you want to ask me how to do it better, I can try to explain it, but it's again my own personal things. And what happens for me when I do that, there's this current that starts to come through. I was trying to explain this to Nadeau sensei. You know, it's kind of like, I said, you know, in that moment I do that, I have purpose. And it's not to win, it's not to, And more than anything else, this is tremendous energy. But it comes out of the balance of that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. So in that moment, I have position alignment. Now, what I do with all that is consolidating that. It's my own activity, it's my own behavior. Okay. And, you know, part of the ritual is kind of like you can feel spiritual for a little bit and then get caught up in a bunch of stupid stuff, which I unfortunately do, you know. But, you know, reflecting, I try to come back to here. Okay. Now, what I also find, for example, is that, you know, the actual current, you know, if I pick up the sword, you know, I'm swinging the sword and swinging the sword against an exercise, but there's that current. Boom, boom, boom. So the actual sense of it, light, dark, heaven, earth, water, fire, and that consolidation, boom. So that's really the basis of my practice, okay? So, on a day like today when there's just we're inundated with what's going on in the world, I still try to align, consolidate. Ooh. And hopefully what that does do, it produces within me, two most important things these days. We're just gonna go back to the other one. For me, the two most important things we get out of Aikido are one, discernment. And that represents the sword. Discernment, not judgment. The other one is compassion. If we lose those, we're lost. And that's, to me, what Bio Sensei created Aikido, is for us to forge ourselves to beings that understand, hopefully increasingly, that discernment is opposed to the judgment and the compassion. That's why we're here. He did it to an incredible level. So, if somebody says, who do you really study? I study him. I never met him personally. I sort of know him mainly through the people that I've studied with, like Robert Frager, Robert Nadeau Sensei's, Hikizuchi Sensei, Anmo Sensei, Yanase Sensei, Tojima Sensei, all right? Also, even though it's a different art, Master Choi, they represent, to me, the archetype that I try to aspire to. So, I do the Tai Chi movements because they calm the spirit a little bit. I return to a more original level, but I also do kind of the ritual movements, going into the fire movements. Okay, so that's me. Other than that, I don't know that I would have survived this crazy pandemic, because, you can go into very, very, we can be in a low-grade depression and not know it. And we're affected by that. But when I swing the sword, or I pick up and do the misogi movements with the spirit, I know who I am. So, to me, that's really what my own particular practice is these days. Anyway, anybody else? Anything? Thank you, Audrey. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and see I'm going to go back to CNN News, and we'll just want to check what's going on in the world. I hope what's going on in Washington is peaceful. Tonight, by the way, at 7:30 to 8:30, we will be doing the Tai Chi club meeting. Okay, so I hope to see some of you then. Thank you.